be ready to go.
Let me hit the go live button. We are live.
All right, good deal. I am recording.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the
Why
American
relate
Green
to its sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes the candles to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Connor.
And you're all here. The gang's all here. More exciting information this week. So tell us about what you're looking forward to seeing tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I got the AEW Revolution pay-per-view is tomorrow.
Okay.
And the main event is an exploding barbed wire death match.
That sounds good.
Which, it's going to be triple death, Nathan.
Triple death.
So like sometimes you see footage, like usually it's the whole ring is wrapped in barbed wire and then there's like explosives like at various points on it.
Okay.
But this one, and then there's a variation on it called double death where like only two sides have the barbed wire explosions. And then this one, it's going to be three-sided barbed wire explosions. And then one side is either going to be open or it's going to be like a regular like ring ropes. I'm not sure how that'd work, but we'll see. Essentially, it allows them to go outside of the wrestling ring. And outside the wrestling ring is more shit that electrocutes and blows you up.
This sounds like a amazing feat of engineering.
Because there's also in Japan they have landmine death matches, which is like just like like a plaster board with like an explosive on it. So like when people land on it, it blows up and looks all exciting. But and then there's a 30-minute time limit. At which point, if nobody wins, all the explosions go off at once.
Wow.
So
yeah, I'm on the website right now. This looks kind of interesting.
So it's Kenny Omega versus John Moxley. So that's for the AEW championship. So what other matches? There's a ladder match that's just kind of a setup to a TNT championship match. There is a street fight between Team Taz and Darby Allin and Sting. Sting the wrestler, not the musician.
Why not the musician?
I can't afford him. You got Hikaru Shida versus Ryo Mizunami for the AEW Women's Championship, and they had a pretty good tournament that led up to it. So I mean, I expect Shida to retain because I don't think that, like Ryo Mizunami is like really a big name or really has any gravitas in the AEW, but like she won the tournament, so like it's kind of a good opponent for her. And also like they have history that's kind of interesting, where I guess like they've teamed several times, but they fought each other like 3 times, and every time it's been a draw.
Huh.
So, which I didn't know, which makes it a bit more interesting. What else is there? There's an Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor versus Miro and Kip Sabian. There's really pretty low expectations for that match, but it's Orange Cassidy, so it'll probably be funny at least. But this is kind of like the payoff to the longest running, least wanted rivalry in AEW at the moment. So.
Oh, okay.
But like all the people involved, it's like I like them. It's just like the way it's been set up has just been kind of meandering, and it's always been set up for comedy, but it hasn't really been that funny. So.
Oh, okay.
There's a casino battle royale with tag teams, so it's like a battle royale but with tag teams. Winner gets a shot at the tag team championship. There's a tag team between the Young Bucks and MJF and Chris Jericho, so that should be pretty good. That'll start the show. And then we got Maestro here. We got Hangman Adam Page versus Matt Hardy in a money match, and winner gets the other person's first year quarterly income. Which is just,
Okay, that's interesting.
which is just
I'll make it complicated.
yeah, it's just like weird because it's very specifically that, which makes it kind of funny that it's that, because it's not like oh, we get your whole money for a year, because not just like that's too ridiculous. Like, how about quarterly income? It's like, okay, that's not that ridiculous.
That's still 3 months of income. That's pretty fucking brutal.
Yeah, like also like there's they were doing the Road to series, which kind of builds the match, and Hangman and Page is like drinking and is like, oh, I think everybody will let him know that Matt Hardy is just a no good carny piece of shit. It's just funny the way he said, because he doesn't say just piece of shit. He's like asshole, piece of shit, carny motherfucker, or something like that, or it's just stringed together profanities. The profanities that they could say. He didn't say motherfucker, but
Yeah.
they get to say shit a lot. Yeah, so hopefully that'll be good. They used to do stuff on Saturday, but this time they did it on a Sunday. But it allows me to do the podcast and then watch it freely tomorrow.
Good. Don't have to go to work on 2 hours of sleep.
Well, usually like when we do the podcast, that's when the pay-per-views are on. So
Oh, okay.
it'd usually be like I'd get the pay-per-view and watch it for like half an hour before we do the show, and then I just catch up on it later. It's nice to see him live.
So it's pay-per-view for AEW or WWE. Is that pretty much the same as like UFC, where it's like $60-$70?
It's usually AEW's 50. WWE has their network, so you just subscribe to the network for a month and you get all their pay-per-views. So, but yeah, I mean, you can through your cable provider. You can still spend $60 to get WWE pay-per-views. I don't know why you would do that. But,
Dedication, common dedication.
well, there's actually a lot of people like that live in rural areas where like their cable package is more reliable than their internet, and so it's easier to do pay-per-view than it is to do a streaming service.
Well, because did you see the Reddit breakdown of like what it costs to be a UFC fan every year?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I was asking what pay-per-view was, because it was talking about like, oh yeah, every pay-per-view is $60 or $70, and then if you wanted to subscribe to everything about it, like you want to know everything that has to go on with ESPN, ESPN2, and the UFC streaming, it's like something like, I don't know, like what, $12,000 a year basically.
Yeah, well, actually, I think it was like $2,200 if you bought absolutely everything.
Okay.
Which is ridiculous. But yeah, like
so,
the headline was like, "This is why UFC has a pirating problem," because of course they do.
I mean, I could totally see why they would, because everybody has a pirating problem now. Nobody has the money for this, for like dedicating, X amount of money to internet or streaming or what have you every year. Like that's a lot of money, considering what I've found out about how much it's going to cost me to like upgrade cell phones if I need to in the next year or two, with pricing plans the way they are. It's like, oh, that's a car payment.
Yeah.
For having 2 new cell phones with a decent amount of data on them, because that's what you have to have now. There's no just getting around. I guess you could technically just get flip phones and just go the call and text route, fine. But considering how everybody's wired now, that they want everything on their phones, I don't think that's going to be possible anymore. At least for not for me or my wife anyway. So.
But yeah, AEW usually only does 4 pay-per-views a year, and they're $50, which isn't bad. And I mean, that's kind of high for some things, because like there's other wrestling companies like their pay-per-views are like $30 to $30. But usually AEW stuff is worth it, so I spend the money. I take time off to watch it, so I enjoy it. But also they do it for their television shows. They'll do special events on TV every once in a while, where it's basically like a pay-per-view event on television. Because really, that's where the money is. Like weirdly, is like the money's in the television. So like doing a pay-per-view model is kind of weird, but they do well. Like it's like their pay-per-view sales, like they're not beating WWE in any way or UFC at all, but like they're what WCW like did back in its heyday, like they're eclipsing that. Like so, but they have way less money. Well, actually, you know, he is the son of a billionaire, so they technically have more money than WCW. Well, actually, no, because that was what's his name? CNN guy that owns CNN.
Oh, Turner.
Yeah, Ted Turner. He was a billionaire. But anyways, oh yeah, and Shaq wrestled the last episode of AEW Dynamite. That was pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Because like everyone had like the lowest expectations for that match. Because it's like they didn't build it very well. So it was going to be a mixed tag match between. It was going to be Cody and Brandy Rhodes, but then she got pregnant, so then she was out of it. And then she kind of got replaced with her doppelganger, Red Velvet, who, well, it's not really a doppelganger, but it's like another, here's a pretty black lady who can wrestle. And then they were going up against Shaq and Jade Cargill, which go ahead and search Jade Cargill because she is a crazy looking physique. Like when guys, like when artists in the 90s would draw like X-Men like women and they'd just be like all muscles and giant boobs and people are like, nobody looks like that. Well, Jade Cargill looks like that. She has a cosplay like image of her being Storm, and it's crazy how good she looks as Storm.
Yeah, she does look like that. Yeah, she looks like a not definitely more muscular than like the Eon Flux characters, but kind of very strange, interesting physique.
Yeah, muscles for days, like no body fat, and then just giant fake boobs. But whatever.
Those are fake?
Yeah, you built those up in the gym with hard work.
Yeah. Couldn't tell.
You can't have boobs like that with 1% body fat.
Oh,
Damn it.
no.
Lies that big muscle corporations tell you.
But like apparently in WWE like had her in their performance center, and apparently they passed on her. But so yeah, there was a big question mark there. It's like, well, we don't know Shaq's gonna wrestle. Like, what can he actually do? Jade Cargill, I have no idea like if she can actually do in the ring. Red Velvet, is not that experienced, so like she has some flaws, and like Cody is like the only person in the match who like can really hold it together, and he's also currently injured. He has a shoulder injury, so there's a lot going against this match, but it ended up being a pretty good match. Like not necessarily like a great wrestling match, but like as an entertaining match, it was good. So it ended up like Cody ended up running and jumping and giving Shaq when he was standing on the outside of the ring, a crossbody, and they had two tables set up outside of it. And so, Shaq weighs like nearly 400 pounds plus Cody on top of him. They hit those two tables and they just explode.
Well, good. I'm glad to see Shaq's doing something.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, otherwise, he just runs a bunch of successful businesses and makes them millions of dollars a year.
Yeah. He does the analyst stuff on TNT. He's like he's the new face of Papa John's.
And he was advertising.
Interesting move.
He's advertising Epson printers on the paper I bought the other week. So I mean, he's still got advertising gigs other places.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, he owns a bunch car washes and fast food restaurants.
Oh yeah, he's a successful businessman on top of being just a millionaire athlete. But yeah, I was just like, Shaq's like 7'2", and like when he's out there, it's like, holy shit, he's so much taller than everyone.
just this giant man. Like when they showed the custom cars they made for him.
Oh yeah.
No, even in sedans, there's like no one sitting behind him. That seat's all the way back.
I know it was a funny thing because at a part where like they cart him away in an ambulance and like so he's sitting there like kind of like laying dead like like this really he this match really took it out of him that fall and but then like they try to close the ambulance door while he's on the gurney and it won't close because his legs are sticking out and so he has to like tuck in his legs and like like go back to pretending to be dead. It's like we saw you move. It's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they never follow up on it. Like they go back to the ambulance, open the door, and Shaq is just gone. And then nowhere in the rest of the show do they ever follow up with what happened to Shaq. So I don't know if that's going to be played out later, or if they're doing something else. Because also because Shaq has a reality show on TNT. I forget what it's called, but they were filming segments of that show for this, so they might have done something for that.
Oh, okay. Didn't know about that one.
Yeah. AEW Revolution. It's tomorrow. Catch it.
Well, the stimulus bill has been voted on in the Senate tonight.
Yeah?
Yeah, and it passed, and now it's going back to the House.
Now it's going back to the House.
And hearing our wonderful state Senator Joni Ernst talk about it sounds like a real loss for the American people.
Yeah.
We
We're going to go.
We don't know why we
Well, what'd they say? What was the thing? The crazies. Oh, we're going to go into Venezuelan style currency devaluation now.
What?
Because this bill is. Oh yeah, they're all.
Well, because she was talking about how bipartisanship was dead, and it was like horrible blow to bipartisanship, and it's like no one stopped you guys from voting through fucking bullshit bills, and the Republicans controlled all that shit. You didn't complain about bipartisanship being dead.
Well, this is a $1.9 trillion stimulus bill. Trump passed a $1.6 trillion stimulus bill when this started, and then another $900 million bill halfway through it. And then this one's coming up, and now this is what leads us to devaluation. So it's like, yeah.
Well, between that and gas prices being $8 a gallon is predicted, or $7 or $8 a gallon is the prediction for most of the Republican dipshits.
Oh yeah, I mean they're up, but they're not that high.
Well, because they've closed 4 processing centers in Texas, 1 because of the power outages, and 2 because of COVID. And I was like, well, it's not like anybody's working elbow to elbow in there, so COVID's not the real reason. It's probably just because they want to jack the prices up right now.
Well, yeah, and that in the South.
That happens all the time because like whenever there's like a hurricane that runs through Texas, it's like, oh, gas prices are $5 a gallon. That happens all the time. So this isn't. I wouldn't say this is new. The scare tactic is to say it's going to be that forever, and then it's the Democrats' fault. So.
No, I know, and that's why I'm pissed off by hearing it all the time, just because it's.
No, I mean, like this. I mean, this is their road plans. Like whenever they lose power, and then the same for the other side too. But it's like the one prediction was like when Trump loses the election, like count down the timer till when Republicans care about the debt again. We gotta pay back the debt. All this irrational spending that the Democrats is like you spend all that yourself.
I actually listened to something the other day. It was amazingly rational. They were talking about why you can't find bullets and guns anymore because there's all these weird rumors.
Yeah.
And they actually had the CEOs of 2 of the major ammunition manufacturers, and they said, well, there's a couple things that happened. First of all, COVID happened, and 19 million people went out and bought firearms that did not own them before. And then everyone who goes in the store, if they see 5 boxes of ammo, they're buying 5 boxes of ammo now. They're not buying 1 or whatever, if there's no restrictions or whatever. They're sending family members in to buy them. He goes, we're working massive overtime to produce ammo, but we're not opening extra facilities because once we reach this high water mark and it goes back down, we're gonna have to close all those facilities and lay all those people off. So yeah, they were actually being very rational because all the rumors about the government hoarding it. He's like, the government doesn't buy ammunition. There's one company, I think it's called Black Lake Arsenal, or they make all the bullets for the military, and they don't sell to civilians, and it's all made in one or two different places. We don't deal with them. Law enforcement buys hollow points and stuff from us, but
Also,
yeah,
the
these
military
guys are finding it.
military can also make its own ammo as well,
Yeah.
because we have. They're called ammo techs, and they make ammo.
They do.
But these guys were just like, yeah, I hear a lot of horseshit rumors and talk, and I even have family members accuse me of like, oh, you're keeping bullets from us. It's like, no, we just can't make them fast enough. And you got to remember, you went from like 64 million people owning guns in this country to almost 80 million in a year. It's like, it's not.
Yeah, I saw
And
like
a lot of those people are using them too. So.
yeah, there was like a YouTube video of a guy who owned a gun shop, and there was just like it looked like they had gone out of business, but no, they just sold everything they had.
Yeah.
And there were people buying like 308s and stuff like that merely because the ammo was available, because usually the 308 ammo is more expensive, and like the guns are way more expensive, and it's like, that's what you got, that's what I'm getting.
Yeah. AR-10, sure. Cost $100 to shoot, a few magazines. Great. Yeah.
Yeah, I ordered some 9mm from LAX Ammo, and it took them like a month to get the order through, which that was fine. I wasn't expecting it. Nor did I need ammo. It's just like one of those things like, maybe.
We'll see what happens.
Actually, it wasn't even me. It was Mom being scared. It was like, I'm going to buy ammo through the mail to appease Mom's fear.
Bullets are here. Oh, thank God. Ammunition has arrived.
And then at some point, I was going to get an AR-15, but that never came through. But I got a box of 5.56 that I was able to pick up. I got that in like 2 weeks, but that was like 4 months into the pandemic. And then what was the other weird thing? Oh yeah. So I was able to get the my ammo faster than I'm able to get my Bowflex dumbbells.
Oh, okay.
I ordered them in November 29th, so it's the end of the month. And they say they're not going to ship it till March 29th.
That's wonderful. That's an efficient use of business.
But so not just ammo, it's also with weightlifting equipment. So
yeah, it was refreshing to hear people who work in that industry like be rational.
yeah.
Like, they say, "Oh, this doesn't have anything to do with who's president. This doesn't have any.
Oh yeah.
We're in business to make money and sell things. We're not conspiring with the government to."
Well, that totally makes sense. Where you talk about where it's like demand shot to unprecedented levels, and there was absolutely no way they were going to increase production in a way to meet it, because like you said, like when you're done meeting that demand, then you just basically got to fire everybody, close down facilities.
Yeah, it costs more than you invested.
Yeah.
So it was nice to hear something rational from on one of those YouTube channels instead of the sky is falling.
I saw Keltec has a new gun.
Well, what do they have?
They have their 5.7 pistol, but it's like, it's not really a pistol. It's more like a submachine gun, but they're selling it as a pistol.
Nice.
And so it's a 5.7, and but they don't have a proprietary magazine. They use the FN 90 magazine. You know, that one that's like lays flat
Okay.
and it spins the bullet. So they're using that, and then like the submachine gun, like it like clasps around it, like it opens up and like clamps on top of it, so it's just sandwiched in the middle of the gun, and then it's a semi-automatic 5.7 50 round submachine gun with no stock.
Huh. Oh, that's a weird looking one. Okay.
And I believe it's
That's
retail.
a weird round.
Yeah.
looks like a little pistol round or a little machine gun round.
Yeah, well, it's smaller than a 9mm, but the case is throated, so it has extreme velocity.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to have great penetrating properties to it. That's why it was designed like that. But also, you can just shove because the round is so small in diameter. You can basically just shove as many bullets in a clip as you can. So that's why they got those 50-round magazines there, like the FN90.
Yeah, and those bullets aren't cheap though.
Nope.
That's what always scares me away from stuff like that. It's like, oh, that looks cool. What does it shoot? Oh, you know, the SIG 45s. Okay, well, I'll never buy that.
Well, that was the interesting, like, because you used to, the only way you could, like, the only guns that used that round was the FN90 or the 5.7, and both those are really expensive guns, and the ammo is also expensive. But now, like, Ruger has their 5.7 pistol, which people say is better than the 5.7 and costs like half the price. And then, you know, Kel-Tec always has this, you know, their weird guns with interesting features, and it's because that thing's priced at like, I think like $1,000.
Yeah.
Which is seems kind of crazy for a gun, but like what you're getting, you're actually getting quite a bit. You know, 50. You get 2 magazines and the gun.
Yeah, Kel-Tec is someone. I was listening to someone once, and that's like the favorite. Like Hollywood prop makers love those guns because it's like, oh, we can make this look like anything. You know, it's just we can cast rubber dies of it and make it look like a laser gun and anything.
Yeah, they got there's that one that's called I think it's called the Sub 2000, where the one like it folds in half. They love using that one in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's like that's the favorite gun of Hollywood prop makers, or not the favorite manufacturer, because all their stuff looks odd enough that like, oh, okay, you know, we're not gonna have to pay anyone any rights. This looks futuristic already.
I like one guy was talking about. He had his Kel-Tec Sub 2000. They had it all kitted out just for the fun of it, and he was like, "Kel-Tec is the most innovative firearms maker around." I didn't say best. I said most innovative.
A lot of innovation there. Yeah.
Well, they have they have that one pistol. I forget what it's called. Like the name is like the amount of rounds it can fire, and it's a 22 pistol, but it's a quad stacked magazine, and it has like 50 rounds in a pistol, like just in the butt of the pistol. It's like fucking ridiculous.
Yep.
And then because like those rimfire cartridges, like they aren't necessarily the best things. They aren't the most reliable round to fire. Like if you have to expect like at least one of them is just going to be a dud, and so like running that many rounds through a gun like that, it's just like you're just waiting for a misfire to happen.
Doesn't Kel-Tec have the shotgun too, where you pump it and it's 2 barrels every time?
Yeah.
But it shoots one at a time.
Yeah, it switches between the tubes.
So it's like boom, boom, rack, boom, boom, rack.
Oh wait, no. It's one tube, and then there's a switch, and it switches over to the other tube.
Oh, okay. I knew there was something weird about the firing order in it.
Yeah.
But those are in a lot of sci-fi. Those are all the future guns now.
Yeah.
They just, redress those to I don't think I've ever owned a Kel-Tec.
No.
It's not really my style either.
No, yeah, they're weird. They just seem like pretty much every one of theirs gun has a gimmick, and they're like surprisingly affordable. So
Yeah.
because you look at like what they're doing, it's like, oh, this gun's gonna be $2,000, and it's like, no, it's $400. Like what? Is it good?
Looks cool.
I mean, because they build a lot of their stuff like, a lot of it, most of it is like hard plastic, but
Yeah.
But, so's Glocks, but they're just doing it with a submachine gun or rifle size things.
Kel-Tec's one of those. It's that family of Florida gun companies.
Yeah.
Because there's like, what do they call that now? There's a lot of unique gun makers that are all based out of Florida now.
Yeah.
It's never like the big ones, but it's always like, oh, these guys like Serbu, the guys that make the like the 50 caliber, like the single shot.
Yeah.
But you have a 50 caliber long rifle for like under $2,000 or something, but you have to unscrew it
Yeah.
and screw it back in. But you're shooting a 50, which is a massively destructive gun. It's like, and then they make a like a Barrett knockoff, it's semi-auto, but they still cost like $5,000.
Yeah.
Like,
But like
nothing
those Barretts cost like $12,000.
yeah,
so-
they're very, very expensive. So yeah, if you need one, I guess.
Plus the ammo is like, what's that shit? Like $20 a round or some shit.
I've never looked seriously at a 50. It's like what am I?
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
shooting
There's
down
no
aircraft.
reason, yeah.
I'm not
I
going. out.
I only see it on Demolition Ranch.
Yeah, I let those guys. I live that fantasy through them now. 'Cause, like, there's no way I'm ever buying any of this shit.
Well, yeah, you can't fucking afford to.
The only thing that's ever tempted me on Demolition Ranch or Kentucky Ballistics is the giant revolvers. It's like I could see one of those in my future. I mean, the giant, like the ones that look like the one that Jack Nicholson pulled out in the, it's like I gotta have one of those because they're just. I mean, but I wouldn't want them. They're firing them chambered in these wicked rounds too. Like the one guy's a bodybuilder. And he shoots these like 50 caliber revolvers, and even he's like, "Oh my god!" It's like these things are just ferocious. But there's one with like a 17-inch barrel or something, or the guns that the guys carried in Looper. Like the bad guys always had these giant revolvers.
Yeah.
Those are real guns. They weren't redressed for the movie. You
Those
can buy.
those aren't those Taurus Judge ones that fire like the 410 shotgun shells, or was there just a big revolver?
They were a big revolver. They were either chambered in 454 Casull or 44
okay.
Magnum. Because I don't think the 500 Smith was chambered for everything then.
Because I know, like, I think it was in Shoot 'Em Up. They use those Taurus. I think they're called Taurus Judge. And
Yeah.
it's just a 410 shotgun, and it looks absolutely ridiculous, but like, it looks intimidating. Like, Jesus Christ, what's that firing? It's like a 4-ton shotgun shell. It's like, is that gonna kill everyone in the room? Like, no. But
No, every sparrow in the room will die. Those can also shoot the 45 long Colt.
huh? Okay.
It's the same It's basically the same rim size.
Yeah.
So you can use it as a pistol. But yeah, guys had one. Guy at the gun range had one. So you want to shoot this? I was like, not really. I mean, it was so heavy. It was like I was holding a brick in my hand. Like, okay, let's line up with this. I don't like the guns that are so big. It's like, hey, it's torture to shoot this. Well, go ahead and shoot it then. Good luck. I don't need to break my wrist to prove it. The biggest I go is 44 Magnum, and the gun better weigh like 5 pounds to offset that. Or have giant porting. Because then the other thing those guys go for that's always weirded me out is like the micro 9s. It's like, this 9mm fits in my hand. It's like, yeah, hold on to that too, because that thing's going to fly up in the air on you. It only weighs 3 ounces. Yeah, it's wonderful shooting experience. So the backstop for that the concussion is you. It's very light to carry. It's like, yeah, so's a 38 air weight. Doesn't break your wrist when you shoot it. But some guys just, it's like, you don't need those wheel guns. Like, it holds 5 shots. You need 10 shots in the palm of your hands. Like, well, if you can't shoot, maybe. I don't know. What are you trying to prove? We got to hit them once in the right place. I need 35 shots in the palm of my hands. Like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, I sprained my wrist last week trying to clean and jerk 135 pounds.
Yeah, that feels good.
We were doing something at, like when our unit was actually like PTing again, and so like they handed me like a barbell 45s on it, and like there was like they wanted to do the clean jerk thing, and I just couldn't do it, so I felt kind of embarrassed about it, and I really wanted to like prove to myself I could do it, and I could get it to here, but like that was like took like 6 tries just to do it once, and then like and then overhead pressing it like wasn't gonna happen that day, and then I was setting up for for the squat the next day. So I cleaned and jerked it and put it on the top squat rack position. So I did that, and then a couple days later I was like, oh, this hurts.
Yeah.
So when I got back to the clean and jerk day, I decided like, well, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna rest. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna pick up a different exercise. And I was like, I'll try hip thrusters.
Okay. Not familiar with that one.
So you sit down on the ground. You have like your back on a bench or on a platform behind you. So you're on the ground, and then the bench is like on your back. And then you roll the bar with some weight on it, basically onto your lap. And then you like kind of you bridge up onto the bench, and then you just like you go down and you like thrust upwards. So you're like trying to like fuck the weight essentially.
Oh, okay.
And it's supposed to be good for like glutes and like hips and stuff like that. And Jesus Christ, because I had never done this before, I didn't put a lot of weight on it either. And I was able to do it, but like, holy fuck, for the last like few days, like the way my body aches, like simulates like when you have a sickly feeling, because just my whole midsection, stomach, thighs, back, it just all aches in a specific like pulse that feels like I'm sick, and it was fucking sucked.
Simulating influenza through weightlifting, huh?
Yeah.
Am I gonna throw up? No, you just like every muscle group in your body is rebelling against you at this point.
So either I did something wrong, or it's just because I've never done it before, and like that's kind of something like I need to focus on that, because if I can get past that, then I'll help other things. But I don't know. But yeah, that sucked.
Yeah,
Doesn't sound great.
you get a lot of that biofreeze and stuff will help with that.
Well, I've taken cold shower. Well, like I take cold showers and stuff like that. And it's not like it hurts. It's just like it's sore like it's supposed to be, but it was just like sore in a very specific way. I also did squats the next day, so it was also like kind of hitting around the same area.
Oh, okay.
So it was just, and it didn't really hit till like the day after that. I was like, oh, this feels weird.
Yeah, that's fun though. It can be. I used to enjoy it when I was in high school, so it's been a long time since I've done anything like that. It doesn't involve work.
And I felt kind of embarrassed. Like I saw a video today of like a one-armed guy who was like clean and jerking like 200 pounds. Like, fuck.
Yeah, well, you got to see the beginning of that journey, though.
Yeah.
It's
Well, it's like
always,
one of the things like, should this motivate me, or is it going to just depress me and make me like, I'll give up on it forever? Just don't know what side I'm going to fall on that right now.
yeah, I kind of get. Sometimes I get a couple model magazines, and sometimes I'm really in the zone, or I've made something and I feel really good about it. And then I'll see what these guys do, and I'm like, I'm just wasting my fucking time here. It's like, what am I doing? But you realize, like, these are the top tier people in whatever they're doing, and it's like, yeah, those guys probably have been doing this since they were 10 years old. I picked it up again when I was in my 40s. So,
But I was able to do the bench with my wrist sprain, so I had some weightlifting gloves that have like wrist wraps on it, so that wasn't that really wasn't a problem. It's like, yeah, it's weird. It hurts at a very like, it's fine, but it's like it takes a very specific motion to make it hurt, which is just
Right.
weird. Because then you're like, oh, I'm fine, and then you do that weird specific motion. It's like, oh.
there it is.
Which really, it's putting the car in reverse. That sucks for some reason.
It's probably just a combination of things that sets that off specifically. Like, you'd have to get like a team in there to understand why that was.
Yeah, well, also I'm not like wrapping it up or anything, and I was working on it, so it's probably just gonna take a bit more while to heal right, but I can do everything with it. It's fine. I have a F1 update.
Okay.
All the teams have revealed their cars.
How do they look?
About the same as that. Actually, I guess there's a lot of new stuff. So, Racing Point, which was sponsored by a BWT, which is some water company thing. I don't know.
Okay.
And they had their pink cars, but now they are Aston Martin,
Okay.
and they are mainly sponsored by something called Cognizant. And so, but like the car is mostly what they call a British racing green, which I guess that's the Aston Martin green color.
Yeah. It's Austin Martin and Jaguar both have a version of that.
So yeah, so they have their car, but it has like a pink stripe, like on accented on it, because I guess BWT was going to had like kind of abandoned their sponsorship with Racing Point, and they were trying to look at other places, but I guess they came back to the now Aston Martin, and so they have a pink stripe like accented on the car because they came back as a sponsor.
Oh, okay.
Then you have Renault now becomes Alpine Racing, which we'll see how that shakes out. I do not want to call them Alpine Racing. I think Alpine Racing sounds cool,
Yeah.
but Alpine's the French way to say it. What do they have? Shit, I think it's kind of like a blue. It's mostly a blue car with accented with white and red. It looks pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
The cars are mostly the same as last year. Like I was saying, I think I said it a while ago. There are a bunch of changes with the back barge boards near the tire, where they used to have like a lot of weird aerodynamic scoops and fins and stuff, and like they can't do that at all this year. So it's just a flat board. But now they're doing a lot of weird shit at the front of the car. Because that's like without that stuff at the rear barge board, they are losing a lot of performance. So then they have to try to get it elsewhere. So they just got all these weird. There's like this little box towards the front of the car, like kind of like behind the suspension. They usually have like this kind of box thing that has like a bunch of aero stuff on it, and so that stuff's getting real complicated. They have a thing where it's like that box thing now has like a little like bridge to the side view mirror, and that little bridge is also an aero element. And I'm not sure if that's I saw 2 cars at least have it, but maybe all of them do, because I know last year there was 2 instances where like a side view mirror was falling off while people were racing, so maybe they like had them do that, or they just like, here's a new way to get an aero element without shaking the side view mirrors.
Well, yeah, looking at the Aston Martin car right now, yeah, the fronts look very strange. A lot of stuff going on there.
Also, like so this year the salary cap comes into play. So Mercedes can't just like buy their way to a win, presumably.
Right. Yeah, supposedly.
I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like what actually, like Mercedes can still spend like $500 million. It just can't. That $500 million can't go into car development. But if they want to spend it elsewhere, that's fine. Like they don't have to include in the salary. They don't have to include the driver salary in the team budget. They also don't have to include like the top 3 like salaried people on the team. So it's like the team principal and stuff, or whoever's getting paid the most. That doesn't get added to the team salary or budget.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of weird stuff like that. But what else are the big changes? And then Williams has like their new car, which is kind of blue, and then their Mercedes look like their Mercedes. But the thing they were hiding is apparently the underneath of the car is where they got really innovative.
Okay.
And they weren't showing that off at all because they don't want people to copy them immediately. They know they will be copied, but they just don't want to be copied immediately.
Right.
Also, McLaren has a Mercedes engine this year, which will either be a problem because they haven't worked with it before, or it'll do well for them, but we'll see.
Yeah.
This also learned a lot about the development token system.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things that are like you can't just like if you want to change your engine or like the front suspension or the rear suspension or the gearbox, you can't just do that. You have to spend a development token, and you have limited supply of that. But there are other parts of the car, mostly like aerodynamic stuff. You can change that anytime you want throughout the year.
Huh.
But the other stuff is restricted. So McLaren
It
spent
almost
their,
seems like a video game solution.
yeah. So McLaren, they spent their tokens on basically putting the new engine in. So they will be less developed in other areas compared to other teams. A lot of teams were redeveloping their suspension because a lot of teams are doing a thing where basically the suspension is also like an aerodynamic element. Also because of how the new rules.
Yeah.
But the especially weird thing that happened is with Haas. So Haas is now sponsored by their Russian billionaire.
Okay. Good.
It's like Uralkali or something like that. And so Russian drivers cannot race under a Russian flag. Not necessarily because like they're against like their policies of invading neighboring countries or anything like that. It's because Russians have been constantly cheating at sports since 2009, and so they've basically have banned the Russian flag in sports. And like the FIA is now like a part of like the World Drug Association or whatever for sports athletes and stuff like that because they consider their drivers athletes, and because of that, Nikita Mazepin cannot race under the Russian flag, so he has to race under a neutral flag. However, their paint scheme for this year is just a giant Russian flag over the fucking car.
Okay. Well, there's one way around it.
And this is the American team, so that feels weird. In some ways, it's the most American thing. It's like, sure, you want to give us money? We'll throw whatever on the car and say,
Red, white, blue works for us. Don't look too close at the details.
Also, because of this stuff, like Haas now has like 6 sponsors, while everyone else has like 50 to 80 sponsors. So they've completely sold out. I guess technically still Gene Haas is putting in more money than anybody else. Like he's even more than the Russian billionaire. But this just kind of feels like the end of the road. Also, see those development tokens I was talking about? They are not using them at all this year.
Oh, really?
So the car they are racing this year is the exact same shitty car from last year with 2 rookie drivers.
Okay.
So this will be a learning experience.
Yeah, someone's going to learn something.
I mean, at least all the cars change next year, so I don't know. Maybe they're. But yeah, this seems like a pure survival year for Haas. If they escape this, but also because now they have the budget cap in place. A lot of other car manufacturers are looking to get back into F1, so could be some people. I know Porsche is interested, and I know Volkswagen is interested. Because also like the new cars are coming out with, they have the ground effect stuff, but also they're more cost effective than the cars that they have now. So they're trying to save the sport, but even though the F1's kind of all about innovation and stuff like that, if they want to save the sport, they have to make it affordable.
Right.
It has to make business sense at some point. So.
Come on, billionaires can waste money for days for no reason. They can do it to make rockets that explode once they land. They could do it to make rockets that explode in general. They could do it to create their own private art museum that only they can go into and claim tax benefits off of. They can do it. They got the willpower. They just got to be willing to burn as much money as they want.
Well, also, like F1's just kind of a weird position because they don't really have like sponsors are kind of iffy about sponsoring cars right now. I mean, they got the hybrid engine so they can pretend like, we're helping the environment. But like that's one of the interesting things about Formula E is like they have absolutely no problems getting sponsors. Like that, like it's Formula E is not as popular as F1. It's growing, but like they just like companies look at that. It's like, oh, this environmental friendly, future looking thing. It's like, sure, we'll sponsor that. Like, how much does it cost? It's like, oh, that's not that expensive. Fuck it, throw our name in your car.
Yeah.
Yeah, during the Formula E race, they're doing it in Saudi Arabia, and somebody had some rebel faction had fired off a rocket nearby, and it had been intercepted by an interceptor missile. Apparently, why the fireworks were going off, or those were the fireworks, I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
And there was an interesting crash during one of the races where like a guy just like got knocked in the wall and like flipped upside down. And he like went through a runoff area. It's like, oh, like that just came out of nowhere. I don't know what the fuck happened, but one kind of like the guy's okay, but like one kind of a heartfelt moment is like one of the guys, he came up behind that accident and he abandoned his race to go see if that guy was okay. And so that's kind of a heartfelt moment. Yeah, it's Formula One. They start testing next week, and then they start. I believe they'll start racing the week after that, and then I think it's maybe it's the 11th. I'm not sure. Drive to Survive season 3 comes out, so that should be pretty interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Andrew, I'd recommend Drive to Survive season 3. I think you won't have to know anything about F1 to really enjoy that. So.
Sorry, what is that on?
Netflix.
Oh, okay. I just got done watching the fake Mormon documentary today, so that was entertaining.
What's that?
Oh, it's a documentary about this guy in the 80s that fucking sold a bunch of documents to the Mormon church that were supposedly real, but they're pretty much all predominantly fake, in his own handwriting and his own making. Because he like got dyes printed at certain places and like had this method to like make paper and ink look really old or actually test old, because he had a fake freedom paper done that was supposedly the first thing ever printed in the USA, and then he actually used stuff to fool the radon spectrometer, so he almost sold it for $1.5 million in 1985. What brought him down is he made a bunch of pipe bombs and put it in people's offices and shit and killed people, and then pipe bombed himself to draw suspicion away from himself, and that didn't work either in the long run. And so he ended up going to jail for massive fraud, because it's basically a Ponzi scheme. Because you would basically ask somebody, it's like, oh yeah, what are you really looking for? Like, what's your goal in life to find? And it's like, oh yeah, a letter from Joseph Smith's mother to him. And then he was like, I just so happen to have one. And then he'd take like a week or two or a month and make it out of nothing and sell it to the guy for a lot of money. And so you always came upon all these hard to find artifacts, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's not a con.
So I thought when you were saying the fake documentary, I thought you were saying the documentary itself was like,
oh no,
fake.
It was real. It was three parts, and the first part was 48 minutes, and the other next 2 parts were 60 minutes each. And it was just like, there was one part where it's like a montage of him and his friend that works for him, because they just bought an Uzi and they go out to like a cabin in the middle of the desert and like in his fucking Toyota supercar and fucking blow up shit, and it was fucking weird watching that. But that was probably the funniest part of the documentary. But no, it was enlightening, but also because like the first part of the documentary, it's like, oh, the Mormon Church killed a bunch of people to cover up the fact that Joseph Smith was led to the gold plates by a white salamander, because it was all talking about the salamander letters in the 80s that were hugely popular and supposedly created a bunch of faith challenging stuff with people in the church. And it was like, why would you question your faith because a white salamander helps somebody? Makes no goddamn sense to me, but maybe, just maybe, it does to somebody. But yeah, it was interesting, but it was, I don't know, it was okay. Just more of a fan of like the circumstance of, because he said he was an atheist, so he just did it to basically destroy the church or whatever, or basically make people question their faith. I'm like, I like that part. I don't like the part where he bombed people for no reason. That doesn't make any damn sense. But yeah, It was kind of cool.
What's it called?
Oh shit! I had the fucking name and then I fucking lost it. Google it. I'll do the lazy man's way out. Okay. Yes, I know. I want to go to Google. I don't know.
It's called The Mormon Murders.
Yeah, the Mormon murders.
Okay.
It's on Netflix.
Yep.
Let's
Seemed
check,
like it just came out.
let's check that out.
But when the guy talks, the guy's name that did all this was Mark Hoffman. Sounds like a woman every time he talks. Like, hey guys, I was, like because he said because he actually when he was 12, he figured out a way to counterfeit coins. So he'd find these coins and like counterfeit them to dates and certain finishes to make them more collectible, and he sent them to the Treasury for authentication. And the Treasury is like, "Oh yeah, these are authentic. These are great." And then he sold them for a lot of money too. And supposedly he was like didactic, so like anything he read, he always fucking kept it in his place. So it's like he knew all these obscene things, and he could, because they were talking at one point they were playing Mormon Trivial Pursuit, which it was like Celestial Pursuit or something like that. I think they called it. And it was like he always got every answer right. He knew everything about the Mormon ideology, but he was an atheist.
But is there a difference between didact and autodidact?
Oh, the autodidact. Sorry,
Okay.
I was trying to think of like auto something, and I was like, I swear it
Well, it
was.
just means
didact.
self-taught, right? That's what auto means.
Well, I think self-taught, but also like everything he like pays attention to or takes in, he remembers automatically.
Yeah,
Because he just
remembers it
remembered
from-
all these weird freaking things about everything. Because eventually he got into forging stuff from like Emily Dickinson and Abraham Lincoln and George Washington and shit. It's like that's where he really goes off the rails. But I think it was more or less because he was trying to keep his shit afloat because people weren't buying all the Mormon stuff anymore.
Huh.
So yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Has anybody else watched WandaVision?
No,
No, what's that? I know it's on Disney, right?
Yes.
yeah,
What's it about?
So, you got Scarlet Witch from the Marvel movies. Her name's Wanda. It's like Markov or something like that. I can't remember. She's from Sokovia, the mythical nation in Age of Ultron.
Marvel's Serbia.
And then you have Vision. He's the purple guy with the stone in his head. I don't know if you remember those characters at all.
Somewhat, yeah.
So it's called WandaVision. So it's like Wanda and Vision combined together as WandaVision. And has a really cool gimmick that pretty much gets stale like 5 minutes into every episode, but I still like it. So it starts off with where it's Wanda and Vision are like in a black and white like 50s comedy, like think of like I Love Lucy, or because of her powers it's more like Bewitched, but it's in black and
Right.
white. And it's like each successive episode it kind of progresses through the time of like the different
I
like
got
the,
this wrong. All right.
like the different broadcast standards. So it starts out in black and white and eventually goes into color, and then it becomes like 80s comedy and then 90s comedy, and then eventually it's basically like Malcolm in the Middle or Modern Family.
Okay.
But then there's this mystery in the background the whole time, because obviously you're like, what's going on here? Because obviously this is like some sort of alternate reality. Because
Yeah.
also like at this point everyone knows that Vision is dead. Because
One of the Infinity Stones was what in the middle of his head, right?
yeah. So what's his name? Purple guy ripped it out of his head.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos. So it's like, well, how can he be alive? Why are we in a weird 50s thing? Why is it constantly changing? And so you get about 3 episodes in, and it's kind of like, it's kind of losing me. It's like I said, the gimmick kind of wears thin each time. Like, it's like it's interesting at first, and then it kind of wears thin, because then you're just watching them doing versions of 50s comedy, which means it's not funny.
Yeah. Kind of stilted.
But then when they get like kind of like outside the world and it becomes more of an investigation, then it becomes like really cool and interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, like most episodes are only like half an hour long, and I think the longest episode is like the last episode, because the last episode essentially just becomes like, what if it's a Marvel movie now?
Oh, okay. I've heard about it, I've just never got around to it. You know, instead I used Disney Plus to watch, the Black Hole 18 times or whatever other thing I'm doing that day. So yeah, sometimes I lose track.
I was on Twitter, and I thought it was a joke at first because I saw a thing come up and it said like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross wins Best Original Score for Soul. And I thought it was a joke at first because, like, I thought, like, isn't Soul about like a black jazz musician who like goes to the afterlife? It's like,
Yeah,
why,
that's what it was.
why would Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross be working on it? So there's a third guy, John Baptiste, who's actually like a black jazz musician. He works on it.
Okay.
And so Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross do music for that movie. It's when they do like the kind of afterlife sequences. That's when they do the music for the film. So they did do the music for the film, and they did win the Golden Globe for it.
Okay, I would not have thought that. If
Yeah,
I
that's
read,
fucking
that, I'd
crazy.
be like, okay, there it is.
But like, so I started watching a little bit of it, and I went to like one of the afterlife sequences. Like, yeah, this is fucking Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I mean, it's like a more hopeful version of it, because also it just seemed weird that Trent Reznor's working for Disney.
Yeah, he's going the afterlife, and it's not like. Okay.
And then he's also like going up against himself because he also did the music for Mank, which is that Orson Welles David Fincher movie, which I have not watched yet. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
They did the music for that, and that's like old time music too. So yeah, they're really doing different stuff. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So it's kind of interesting. I know like Trent Reznor, he's a classically trained pianist, and also his dad was a jazz musician, but you know he didn't really know his dad a whole lot. But you know, something could have struggled.
I would not have known that Trent Reznor was a classically trained piano player. I thought he was like just one of those guys that was like got into digital music or something and was a genius. I had no idea.
Well, yeah, he was a janitor at a recording studio, and basically he'd work, and then like in the midnight hours, they'd let him fuck around with the equipment essentially.
Oh, okay.
And that's how he was able to record. I think "Down in It" was his first single. Like I think he got that recorded before he did "Pretty Hate Machine."
Okay.
But yeah, he's a classical because also he was raised by his grandparents, so that just makes sense that like you're gonna learn piano now.
You're gonna play piano in a whorehouse someday. Dun, 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 dun. And they actually did play some of his music in a piano in a whorehouse, but it was in Westworld. Piano, so that prediction came true.
So I need to watch Soul at some point, just for the music.
Why are you watching this for Trent Reznor, man? It's like, what?
Makes sense to me.
Also, I need to watch Mank at some point. But also, I mean, that's David Fincher. I should probably, watch that anyways. I think the only reason I haven't watched it is because they made a move, like, I'm not sure. It's, oh, fuck, what's his name? What's the guy who directed Alien and Blade Runner?
Oh,
Ridley Scott.
Man.
So I'm not sure he directed or he produced it, but like they did a movie called RKO 281, which has Liev Schreiber in it as Orson Welles, and it's a great movie. It's like a HBO TV movie, and it's about the making of Citizen Kane.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's pretty good.
And so I think like just because of that, I haven't really had an interest to see Mank yet. So
Orson Welles is an interesting dude.
yeah.
Remember when they were who was it? Had a weird story about him. I forget what movie. They wanted him to be, they've been trying to make that Island of Dr. Moreau into a movie, and they wanted him to play the main bad guy in that. Like, this was in the 70s. And he was Orson Welles, of course. I think he weighed like 800 pounds by then. He's like, yeah, I don't want to really get out much. And this guy's like, I'll hire this chef that'll cook for you every day on set, and you can just eat on set and act. And it was some kind of weird offer like that. And Orson Welles was still like, nah, I don't want to leave the house.
I'll just do the voice for the Transformers movie. That'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah, he did weird things like that. But he was a weird dude. I mean, his highlight was, the War of the Worlds radio thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Citizen Kane. which when you realize how subversive that film was for the time, it's like, oh, this guy was just trying to fuck with everyone.
Yeah.
He was like, that would be the equivalent of making a movie that pissed off every tech oligarch in the country at the same time. You're going against the guy who owns Hearst newspapers. It's like, yeah, that guy can destroy you in like 20 different ways. And it's like, nah, I don't care. We're doing this. It's art, right?
It is.
Yeah, that was kind of his high point. There's another couple movies where he has a lot of like, cool stuff. I can't remember there's one where like the movie starts with like someone planting a bomb and it's like one long shot for like 15 minutes. And that's a really cool like shot. So I recommend watching just that shot from that movie and nothing else. I've only seen the shot. I've never actually bothered to watch the movie, but yeah, usually a lot of the Orson Welles stuff had like some really innovative stuff for the time and still like cool now.
Yeah.
I've never like sat down. I've never been able to like sit down and just watch Citizen Kane all the way through, but I've always like appreciated it. Like, oh, holy shit! That's why I like I like RKO 281 more than I like Citizen Kane, because RKO 281's a fun movie. Citizen Kane's kind of boring if you're not really like looking for every innovation that it's doing at all points in that movie.
Yeah, I've watched it before, but I've watched it with like, with the whole backstory.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, okay, this is cool. Now, just to watch it straight out, it's just kind of like, well, this is challenging, but it's supposed to be good. But with that backstory in it, then you're like, oh, okay, I appreciate this. I forget, and he did a lot of like Shakespeare stuff too.
Huh.
Like I think did he make Othello into a movie? And everyone was like, no one's going to watch this in America.
Sounds
It's
right.
like, not all Americans are stupid, damn it. Found out he was wrong. Oh. Yeah, but he died in like the 80s. Speaking of films, we watched a movie this week.
Yep.
Watched Oliver Stone's last movie.
Or latest
Snowden.
movie. I think
Latest.
Still, I think there's a couple in the chamber, but
Yeah, well, yeah, the last one you can see,
yeah.
which was this movie seemed to me, this is just my take on it, and you guys can go nuts, but have you ever seen the documentary Citizen 4? Which is about it's about what Snowden did essentially.
Yeah.
And this movie is almost a less exciting version of that. For some reason, this movie did not. This movie had a very hard time holding my attention, and I can't really tell you why. Because everyone who acted in it did fine. But it just seemed to be. Well, it's something I'm pretty familiar with, the story anyway. So it was kind of.
I think the thing about like Edward Snowden is that he's not necessarily a complicated person. He's not intentionally or unintentionally creating drama for himself to excite things. He's just kind of exists there and kind of a mild-mannered person who's good at stuff.
Yeah, and he seems to have these principles.
Yeah.
But he's just like, yeah, this is wrong. Okay, and what's the underlying? No, it's just wrong. You know, it seems like he's a very one-dimensional. And even to hear him interviewed, I mean, Joseph Gordon-Levitt nailed him as far as how he acted and stuff. Like, because I've seen many interviews with Edward Snowden. It's like, I did a good job. Because I believe this guy.
I think some of his manner, but the weird, how he lowered his voice thing didn't sync up when you actually have the actual Snowden at the end of the movie. It's like,
No.
Why did he do that weird voice?
No, I think it was to give more gravity to the performance, maybe.
I don't know.
Because
there's a points where it's like, yeah, that kind of sounds like Edward Snowden's intonations, but it's not constant.
yeah.
So I talk like this the whole time. It's like sometimes he goes into that, but or maybe Snowden just grew out of that and he's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's basing that on more of his younger days or something. I'm not sure,
I don't know.
but and then I read some things that the Oliver Stone did the screenplay, although it's based on a book and a couple other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, like another another great cast, of course, because
Yes.
it's Oliver Stone. I like Nicolas Cage just randomly showing up.
Yeah, that's nice. And she's like there. He's there. I mean, yeah. Because he's the guy who made what was that program he made? But yeah, he basically designed a program that was going to be a lot cheaper than going to outside contractors and be pretty much rock solid, and it was designed to look for very specific things relating to terrorism, and they just kind of walked away from it. Like, now we want to pay, one of our subcontractors billions of dollars to come up with something that's like way more intrusive and bad. And yeah, I forget what that, because that guy went on 60 Minutes and talked about it, and then he got arrested. He was one of the famous Obama whistleblower. Like, Obama's like, I support whistleblowers. You're under arrest. It was one of that strange schizophrenia around Obama where he's like, I want transparency, but not that much. I want transparency that makes my political enemies look bad. The stuff you're doing that makes me look bad, fuck this. Folks, we're not having this. But yeah. So it was kind of a well-acted, boring movie.
I didn't think the movie was boring at all. I thought it was really interesting, though. I mean, yes, when you get to the end and Snowden doesn't exactly sound like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's kind of fucking weird. But at the same time, like, I found a lot of the movie interesting and riveting. And didn't really feel slow to me. It felt like a much better movie of his. It didn't feel like some of the other ones I've dreaded watching. Well,
I was more captivated, but that's just because I had all these computer classes, so I was kind of like vaguely aware of some of the stuff going on here, and that a lot of the computer stuff seemed appropriate. It's like, oh yes, they're using a Linux DOS thing and doing Bash commands and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I recognize that. I mean, it used just kind of the templates. Like, yeah, it could all be bullshit because that's what you do. But it wasn't all the computer stuff wasn't Hollywoodized. It was consistent with what actually happens. A lot of interesting things with like day zero hacks and stuff like that. Because there's like points where where they're just like calling up stuff and it's like, oh, is this a recording? It's like, no, this is live. Like, we tapped into their phone and stuff like that, and like they make it seem like they just have this magical program that can do that. It's like, no, like, for some of that stuff, like, malware has to be installed, or sometimes they have what's called a day zero hack, where it's like somebody got like some hardware specifications, and basically as soon as a hardware is released, it's already hacked, and you can do shit like that. But other stuff like that, where they're using people's phones, like, that has to be like malware that was injected at some point.
Yeah.
But in this movie, they just kind of make it seem like, oh, we can just pull everything whenever we want because we're magical NSA.
Thin Thread is what that program was called. That was the one that the guy developed for the NSA in-house. And then had to go whistleblow to basically say, yeah, they're wasting billions of dollars hiring outside contractors. But then it became even more sinister. It's because, they basically want stuff that sucks in all the data, and this was not designed to do that. This was designed to look for terrorist stuff and patterns. But that's... Yeah.
And also, like, a specific point that they also make it general, but, like, what the program was doing specifically is basically invading everyone's privacy that wasn't an American.
Yeah.
And then when they could invade an American's privacy is when there's enough connections between outside stuff that they're spying on inside America. And that's where you have like the FISA search warrant, which, you can't see is a secret and is basically just rubber stamped approval. It's like, oh, is there a connection? Go ahead and invade someone's privacy. Which that's where the whole that's kind of like where Snowden is like, well, this isn't right. He's like, you can't just do this to Americans. Like, I'm fine if we're doing this to our enemies, but not if you're just doing it to any random American.
It becomes the whole 6 degrees of separation thing too. It's like you can connect anyone to anyone through almost anyone, especially on social media.
Yeah.
It's like, we can watch him because his niece knows the housekeeper of the terrorist, or the guy who might know the terrorist. It's all that stuff's very.
Or he gets kind of upset about like when they're like they have drones tracking cell phones and they just kill the person with the cell phone. It's like, how do we know the person holding the cell phone is the actual terrorist? It's like, close enough.
Yeah. Yes, that was that era of drone strikes, they seem to be very they were very enthusiastic about it. It's like, yeah, shoot these things. Wow, look at this. This is cool. Like, are we killing the right people? Why are we using a repurposed anti-tank rocket? Shoot a bullet at them or something? Nope, got to use Hellfire missiles. Got to get the magnesium in there. That really kills them dead. Being hit by a missile hitting the ground at 500 miles an hour, packed full of explosives, isn't enough.
It really isn't. I mean, I don't know why they should at least double the payload every time.
Micro nukes.
Those bone fragments might pick up a gun and kill somebody.
Yeah. You've got to break down into their component atoms to make sure the threat is averted.
It's a very dangerous threat. You can't take it for granted.
Well, I thought there's some interesting things to add with Snowden himself, like how he never finished high school because he had to get a job to help support his parents.
Parents were getting divorced, yeah.
Then joined the army and then had some weird like contusions in his legs, and they medically discharged him.
Did you ever hear the actual story on that?
No.
From him? Yeah, it was something because he was going for like special forces. I forget which one. I think it was the Rangers or something. And they make you carry a guy over an obstacle. And the way he got those was they literally picked a guy that was like maybe 100 pounds less than me for a 140-pound Edward Snowden to carry around on an obstacle. And so he got all these micro fractures in his leg.
Okay.
And those it's not like a break where it heals and it's actually like at that point it's fairly strong. No, when you have those micro fractures, just like walking, they could just pulverize. So that's why he was given a medical discharge. But it wasn't really because it was very challenging for him to do that, but they were doing like stupid shit like that. It's like, let's let a guy, carry around this huge man. It's like, oh, his legs broke. Imagine that. It's like, oh, yeah. But yeah, that's that. I mean, that's the story he told on one of his Joe Rogan appearances. So.
Oh, that happened when I was in boot camp too, where just people would, your leg's broken. Oh, that's weird. And then
How did that happen?
It's stuff like that because you can't like when you have a full pack, it's like it's about 80 to 100 pounds on your back. You're just running around with that shit, hiking up hills and shit.
I like when you showed me the boots they issued you when you started, and then and then you showed me what they looked like after you were done with just boot camp.
Yeah,
they're just they look like someone took a grinder to them and ground them down in some weird way.
Well, that wasn't any hiking stuff. That was purely marching.
Oh, okay.
Because as much as you want to think like boot camps, like learning about like training how to like fighting and shooting a rifle, no, 90% of boot camp is marching.
They're not giving you like a fighting dagger and like, we're going to show you on this dummy how to kill a man in 30 different ways.
Nope.
Why not?
It's like it's general boot camp. Not everyone's there to learn how to kill people. Like some people are there to build latrines.
No, because I remember you showing me stuff after you got or came back from boot camp and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, let me see if I can take you down to like 3 moves, and it's like every time I'm just sitting there going, fuck. It's very effective against me.
I mean, we learned some stuff.
Yeah.
It's some martial arts stuff. Yeah, the leg sweep is the cool thing. That's the thing that's impressive. When you do that, it's like, oh yeah, this will fuck somebody up.
Especially on concrete
yeah.
or a bunch of loose boulders.
Oh man, we were doing training for our gray belts, and there's this one guy, just a rock solid muscle guy, big guy, and he had his training dummy, which is a person, not an actual dummy, and like we're on like probably like those wrestling mats. It's like it's like 3 inches of foam.
Yeah.
He did the leg sweep on that guy, knocked him unconscious.
Oh, yeah.
Because one of the parts of it is like you kick their leg out and like you push them down at the same time, and it was just like this, boom, like from outside the door. It's like, what the fuck just happened? There was like the whole floor shook, knocked down. Because like sometimes with those when you're doing your test for your martial arts stuff, it's like sometimes just being intense will get you past the point. It's like, yeah, well, that's a check. It's like he didn't do it correctly, but he did it with purpose and intensity. So.
Yeah. It looks the part. Yeah, I would never. I'm kind of anathema to fighting people in general, but I saw something once. I will never fight anyone near concrete or asphalt, because I saw these 2 guys going at it, and this one guy punched this guy. It was kind of like in this part of the neck. It was a series of rapid punches, but he fell down and kind of I forget how he was backing into a curb, and he fell down, and when his head hit the concrete, it made a sound like I've never fucking heard. It was like a weird, like if you drop the watermelon from 10 feet in the air, it might sound like that.
Yeah.
It was kind of a hollow thunk, and that dude was out, and he was bleeding everywhere. And I was like, well, lesson number 1, don't fist fight near curbs and concrete. Then I got into guns. Like, yeah, this is much better. Yeah, that's an awful thing to see. And it's insane to do. I mean, it's like just fighting on concrete, physically brawling. It's like someone's going to get really fucked up in a hurry.
Yeah, because like you watch, if you see wrestling, like those moves, like they're doing on, there's some foam there, but there's all off foam. But the center of the ring has some give to it.
Yeah.
Do any of those moves lightly with less height on concrete, debilitating. That'll end your day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why, like judo seems like, oh yeah, use person's body weight for him, but like it doesn't really. But like they're always on mats, so it doesn't necessarily seem that destructive. Do any judo throw on fucking concrete, you're ending someone's day or life.
Yeah. Yeah, judo, you don't get to punch and break your hands on their face. It's like, yeah, but if you throw them into a bunch of rocks, well, the fight is over. They're not springing up like from the back and like standing up to fight again. No, something's broke, or they've got contusions, or they got the wind knocked out of them, like in a serious way, which happens a lot. It's so easy to do that. Just get winded. Just take an elbow to the gut, and you think you're dying. Like you just think, oh fuck, is this ever going to reset? Jesus, this goes on forever. And that's just like an elbow to the gut, like not even a punch, just right below the ribs. It's like, holy fuck, that's scary. My body's not working. Did I just shit my pants?
No, yeah, because I've been gut punched once before, or Jesus fucking Christ, it takes forever to fucking get your breath back. Like,
the only time I had like the breath knocked out of me is when I was in middle school. I went to a Catholic school, and we'd play football in the church parking lot. So, one time I went up for a catch and basically kind of like got like my lower body kind of knocked away from me. Like, kind of decleated, but not completely, and just landed straight on my back, and just like all the air was gone. I'm just trying to. And then eventually I broke my arm playing soccer on that same fucking concrete parking lot. So
Yeah.
that's what we had. So, man, we had a yeah, that was like so low rent. Like the church owned it, but like they had these basketball hoops out there, but they're kind of lower than normal basketball hoops. So like just hoodlums would go and use them to dunk all the times. Like, yeah, now I can dunk because they're slightly lower than normal basketball hoops, and they were just tore the fuck up. And so we didn't have any rims on our basketball hoops, and so we just like to count basketball, you just hit the square and that was a point.
Yeah.
There was no hoop. You just had to
That
hit
leads to some people violently rocketing the ball in.
Yeah.
It's like a handball or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But yeah, then yeah, so he has that problem, and then later on in the movie he gets epileptic seizures, and that's a new problem, which I didn't know he had seizures.
yeah. Brought on by extreme stress.
Yeah, yeah.
Taking on the federal government is brings stress into your life. Being a spy takes on adds on a little stress.
And they say the reason why he ended up in Russia isn't any political reasons. Like that's just where the State Department stopped him from getting on a plane.
That's that's what this side of the story is. I don't know the whole thing, but
also
yeah.
he has like a Russian lawyer at
Yeah.
the same time, and it seems suspicious. But also he did all this shit in Hong Kong too. So I don't.
Yeah.
Though I mean he's the hero of this movie, so they aren't spending time to really like take him apart because they seem pretty straightforward, and he's just like honest, like as far as we know. Like there didn't seem to be hidden agenda for it. He just felt like, oh, this is wrong. And it kept getting worse.
That's the thing with him is like, because I've read books. I read the Greenwald book. I've read some other books. I've seen a lot of interviews. He does seem like in his mind, in his world, the way he views things, I think he's an honest broker. I think he's naive, in a dangerous way, too. This is just my opinion. That's nothing.
Well, I mean, also that they spent like he is like basically selling out the government and this program, but he's doing it in a way that he deems safe. Like he's not giving away trade secrets. He's basically giving away the general idea of what's going on here.
Right, yeah. Which really wasn't a secret. Everyone knew that abstractly. They still do, but they didn't know the specifics.
Yeah.
And like I said, for me, it's like just to debate the merits of that. I have very mixed feelings about. I'm not always a fan of the things that go on in my country, but it's the only thing I've ever known, and I still think it's one of the best things going. I can be really cynical about it, but if someone said, "Hey, pick a side, Nathan," it's like the U.S. or the U.K. or something. It's like, well, no, this is where I'm from, so this is the side I pick. This is that by default, this is my home setting, so this is where I'm going to be. Now, if they're like putting children in camps and murdering them here, I'm probably going to ask why. I'm not just going to blindly follow that, but it's like that's not happening here. That's not what
For
we're
the stem
talking
cells,
about.
Nathan.
Yeah. You can live forever. Well, my questions are answered. Carry on. Good show. But no, that's. Yeah, it's kind of for me, it's always been a mixed bag. Is like, was this right or wrong? It's like, well, technically it's espionage.
Yeah.
It's treason, but it's like, well, there seems to be a good reason behind it. And I said, yeah, I guess, but
I'm just wondering, like, what the like recruiting response to this was. Like, what's the new thing you have to do so that they make sure that there's never again another Edward Snowden? Like, what happens to the recruiting process?
Well, didn't the guy or the gal now from the army do basically the same thing? The gal that Obama pardoned, Manning.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was basically the same thing, similar stuff, but it was just like data dumps to like WikiLeaks and things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what they do to vet people. I mean, they make lie detectors seem like they're this ultimate tool of intuition, And then you read books from like real cops, real FBI people, and real CIA people, and they're like, "Oh no, lie detectors suck. Lie detectors will only catch people that want to get caught." It's like, well, okay, they're not doing that. I don't know what they're doing. Probably looking at your internet history now.
Do you know what the Russian way to beat a lie detector test?
Yeah, it's don't drink coffee the day of and get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, a good night's sleep.
Because they only catch people that want to be caught. I've heard that over and over and over again. Now I'm sure there's people that make money in the polygraphing industry that will say I'm full of shit. Consider the source there. But all the people I know that have like, oh, we can give them sodium pentothal and hook them up to a light. No, you can't. You can't brainwash people. You can't fundamentally hypnotize people and change them from their home setting. All that stuff's bullshit. I mean, they've invested a lot of time and money into it, but it's never worked out. So.
Also, like all the ways that like lie detector tests get used, they're used incorrectly. Because like it's not a proven positive or negative, like whether like, well, you seem to have answered falsely to this question. It's like you're given yes or no answers, you answer it, and it's like, well, he seems to be lying. It's like there's a specific thing where like how they use the lie detector before is like they'd have a chart of things, and they get a general idea of like what's true. But you can't ever say something is 100% false or 100% true. You can just get a general idea of like this is what we think is true. So it's never concrete, but people treat it like it is.
Yeah. Every lawyer I know has always everything I've ever heard is like if they offer you a lie detector test, say no. If you're slightly nervous or ambiguous and about anything, but you know you didn't do this or you're not directly related to this crime, but maybe you do know something about it, just say no. Call a lawyer. Say no. Because they will fuck you with those things. Because they just want to close the case. They're just like, on to the next thing. So.
Quick tangent. I played and finished Call of Duty Cold War.
Okay.
And this is like this is in the Black Ops franchise of specifically of Call of Duty. So usually that's the one that's the most interesting story-wise. And here it's like taking place in the Cold War, so it's like right up my alley, and it's just okay.
Yeah.
They want to be somewhere between Atomic Blonde and Metal Gear Solid, and it just comes off as G.I. Joe.
No.
But not fun G.I. Joe, just like stupid G.I. Joe. And the twist is stupid. Like there's a point where you like first get the twist. It's like, oh, it was there all along and stuff like that. It's like this is why this was happening. And there's some, because the whole Black Ops franchise always has stuff with like, the number stations and people being like reprogrammed and stuff like that. And so, but then it just has the dumbest conclusion. But there is some interesting character stuff because they always have this point where like you get back to a safe house and they give you an option to like walk around the safe house and like interview the people and you get to know them. It's like, well, this is a good way through a video game to kind of like experience like character growth without a machine gun.
Yeah.
Learn stuff about the characters, and like all the characters like I think are kind of interesting. There's like the MI6 lady, or like she has like a scarf around her neck and then she takes it off at some point because she's talking about like this lady that betrayed her and she has like a scar across her neck where either she got garroted or had her throat slit, and it's like, oh, that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
And then you have like Woods and Mason and those characters from the previous Black Ops games, but here they're just like rugged guys, and all the Reagan stuff is stupid.
I always thought they should have done an alternate history Call of Duty. I think I talked about this when I read about the war scare. This Call of Duty Able Archer, where the Russians completely misinterpret the NATO readiness exercise in the 80s and start World War III. And you just play through that. But, I don't think people would be interested in that. But it'd be cool to see like that 80s technology like fully utilized.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also a bunch of stuff in the game where it's just like, this is a bit too high tech for 1981, but Because they just like every gun you have just has like an EOTech scope on it, but they just make it a bit bulkier and be like, yeah, it wasn't refined yet.
Yeah, well, because remember Terminator, the first Terminator, he has a laser sight on the one gun,
Yeah.
but it's almost as big as a fucking gun because
Yeah.
that was actually a real laser sight at that time. It was good for about an hour and a half before the batteries died. Yeah, they always get that wrong. I mean, they had that technology then, but it was not widely available.
No. Well, I mean that's some way you can make like, well, these are special forces guys, and like there's like no expense spared for them. They get all the cool stuff, and it's like, and for gameplay purposes, like it makes sense. It's like, you know,
Yeah, the special forces don't usually rely on unproven technology
Yeah.
though that lead to field problems.
but like every Call of Duty game, you got to have like a holographic scope because that's just like how these games exist. Unless you're doing a World War II one, then it's fine to just have like, well, even they found a way around that where they just have like the have like radium dial scopes, like the way, or like the ones that like the World War II fighter planes, like they have those the scopes and like the magnifying glass where it's like a
Yeah.
like
Oh, the Germans had night vision during World War II. As a matter of fact, this is what it looks like. I'm building it onto the Tiger tank. This big giant telescope thing there. They could change that lens to like a dark red, and someone could look through that and sight on it. And I mean, it was not wildly successful. And they carried it around on a fucking tank, so it obviously took a lot of weight and time. But yeah. Well, we didn't have stuff like that. We were too busy. Like, how do we make 50,000 bombers?
But yeah, I mean, this is just kind of using this stuff at the time, but you got to make a game and something that people recognize, and just kind of use the aesthetics, not necessarily what was actually going on at the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's Call of Duty Cold War.
All right.
What else about Snowden?
You said watch Citizen 4,
Okay.
and then watch this and see
I don't-
which one you is more interesting.
I like that one scene where he's like having the conference call with the guy, and the guy's just projected on this giant screen. And it's like
Oh, his huge head. Yeah. Yeah, that was I guess that was dramatic license. I actually looked that scene up. Like, do they have conference rooms like that? I was like, no, they usually just one TV screen. But
And there's some interesting editing stuff where like they have a point where like he's doing a voiceover and they just have a screen and he's like watching something on YouTube and he'll click the different things and it's like basically editing inside a scene without actually cutting away from the scene. It's like, that's pretty cool. But there wasn't too many things I thought necessarily like, yeah, this is an Oliver Stone film. Like it wasn't.
I did like the hunting scene where he blasts all those pheasants, and it's just a bunch of creepy guys on managed hunts, just a bunch of rich guys and people like that. It's like, we're coming out here to kill stuff and talk business because that's what the so I don't know if that actually really happened, but
Yeah.
that seemed kind of Oliver Stone to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, not a bad movie, just not the most interesting Oliver Stone movie I've seen.
But it's up there for Andrew, apparently. So.
Well, I mean, for an Oliver Stone movie for me, Nixon's number 1, Snowden's 2.
Where would you put JFK?
Oh yeah, sorry, JFK's 2, Snowden's 3. Sorry, I was trying to go through the list mentally for me because from some of the stuff we watched recently, and
Yeah.
any given Sunday is probably like 6.
Yeah, for me, it's probably JFK, Nixon, probably Platoon, and then 4 would probably be Natural Born Killers, which is not the best one, but I like it more for its aesthetic stuff.
Yeah.
What's your like top 3, Nathan?
Nixon and JFK and what's that other one he did? We talked about. Oh, probably Natural Born Killers would be a 3 for me, just because it's so weird. I remember when I watched that movie when I didn't see it in theaters, but I rented it and I was like, "What the hell?" I remember it came on the 2 VHS cassettes. It's like, what the hell is this? It's crazy.
I thought I was pleasantly surprised with Talk Radio because I had no expectations, so I never saw it before. But what?
Yeah, Talk Radio, Platoon. That was kind of a. It's hard to rank Oliver Stone movies because there definitely seems to be eras in his career
Yeah.
where he's kind of moving through different ways of looking at things and kind of the like the epistemology of Stone's universe about how things work. Like he has some core things that definitely go back to the Vietnam War and his early experiences, but then the rules seem to change as we move on in time, where it's like I'm still going to talk about the same things, but it's going to just elevate to more and more artistic levels of I'm going to express anger on film, and and like I said, he's started with JFK with all the editing, the mixing of different types and film grades, the people talking over things of showing actual documentary films like that. That seems to be a thing with him. Like, he doesn't do that anymore, but that was kind of an era of Oliver Stone too. So.
What's your bottom ones? What's your worst ones you like?
Oh, I don't know.
I think Heaven and Earth is probably his worst, just because it's like his biggest miss. Because, like, that movie has such an important concept to bring to film, and like it does not work at all. Well, it's somewhat effective, but the whole Tommy Lee Jones when he shows up, all that stuff does not work whatsoever.
Yeah, I have to say Heaven and Earth was probably the most painful to watch because I'm expecting this payoff. It's like, okay, it's Vietnam, it's Oliver Stone, it's stories about guys. He experienced all that. That's in his world. And it didn't seem like it just really didn't pay off. And it was just uncomfortable to watch. It's miserable and sad. And then
you hated U-Turn, right?
Yeah, I didn't care for U-Turn. I didn't say I hated it, but it was very much I don't know. It's just it wasn't a movie I connected with.
I didn't like it, but also I just think because like Heaven and Earth is too awkward, and why I like it the least. But U-Turn's also right there. So.
And I have to say, like, Any Given Sunday is definitely a mixed bag. Not something I'm going to watch again. There's things I enjoyed about, things I didn't.
Andrew, what was the one you hated the most?
Platoon. But that's just going off memory. So by ones I watched recently, I didn't have the pleasure of watching U-Turn, so I probably would nominate that one. But as far as like the worst one I've seen, probably Any Given Sunday. Because I mean, otherwise, like I've never been a huge Oliver Stone fan. Alexander is not a bad movie, but it's not a horrible movie, so I can't rightfully put that at the bottom. Plus, it's actually interesting for most of the movie. While like Any Given Sunday is like, oh, okay, this is really timely, and like, it can work as that piece anyway. It doesn't need to be current times to be interesting. But just like the whole fucking asshole complex he comes out with Steam and Beam and bullshit in the first part, and like Al Pacino's like a weathered football coach that's just tired and doesn't want to do the game anymore. And it's like, yeah, fine, okay, this is fine, but it also doesn't work at the same time. It's stereotypes that don't really work anymore. So that's probably my worst movie. I wish I would have seen some of the other ones, I guess. Not that I thought Heaven and Earth looked really fucking stupid. So I guess I'm glad that it's really goddamn stupid.
Yeah, well, that's what I was kind of looking forward to seeing, because like I'd never even seen a frame of that movie, and then I found out why.
Yeah.
So what was wrong with that movie? Or because I know you're talking about it a little bit.
The main actress, she does some stuff well, but she's like kind of all over the place with her acting ability. The relationship that she has with Tommy Lee Jones is completely unbelievable, and this movie is based on two manuscripts, or what do you call those? Like like it's not necessarily an autobiography, but it's like accounts of their lives. I forget what you call that.
Biographies.
There's another name for it. I can't remember.
Memoirs,
yeah, two memoirs of hers, and she like wrote the screenplay. So this is her actual life presented on screen, but then they kind of like have to take dramatic license with what actually happened with her husband, because she did have a crazy husband who killed himself, and then he died. There's a guy that died of cancer. That was the first guy, but he wasn't like in the military. Then the second guy was, and he killed himself. And yeah, but they combined it all into one character, and it's just like their relationship is so awkward and weird, and like there's no point do I believe it whatsoever. And Tommy Lee Jones like not really doing a good job either, and it's just very awkward.
Yeah,
Well,
it
like-
seems to be a movie with no direction, really.
But it
Which
is, but it's like the point. It's a movie about the Vietnam War, basically from the point of view of a Vietnamese person who caught in between both like the NVA and the Americans, and that's like important and interesting. It's just like it just kind of collapses under the weight of unbelievability at the end of it.
Well, I think Tommy Lee Jones is a fine actor. I just thought he was too old to probably play the role in that movie because it seemed like really weird. He was supposed to be the romantic lead in that movie with her.
Yeah. Well, also he doesn't even show up till like an hour and a half into the movie.
Oh, really? Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of a huge problem.
And
So
like,
the Vietnamese village parts of the movie initially, they're like, okay, this is going somewhere. This is going to pay off. Really doesn't. I mean, it's kind of just becomes a story. It's like, oh, okay, she meets this guy and this happens and that. But it doesn't. It gets to the point it's just uncomfortable to watch because the acting's kind of weird. The script's kind of really weird. The storytelling arc is really uneven. It's like some things like, oh, this is starting to capture my attention again, and then, oh, okay, yeah.
there's also like black and white dream sequences of stuff that doesn't actually happen.
Yeah, that's weird too. It was thrown in. What is this, filler? It doesn't have anything to do with the story. But yeah, it was a bad movie. For it was reviewed as a bad movie for good reasons. I absolutely understand why people didn't like this movie. And it was kind of weird considering Oliver Stone's background. But everyone's, again, this is definitely a guy who has arcs in his career.
Yeah.
And the rules change as he goes along. So
But
there's
like- almost the constant throughout is like, man, he has great casts for almost all of his movies.
Hell yeah, everyone wants to work with him.
Yeah, and it's also like like some of his stuff. It's like he kind of bounces on a razor's edge of like the stuff being like hokey dramaticism. Like this is too much, and he kind of like rides the line. And like Heaven and Earth was one where it's like, oh, you went overboard.
Yeah.
But he's good with that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. He's a guy who we've seen him change a lot. But Oliver Stone is still my spokesman for the 1960s because I wasn't alive then. There's the big three movie for the 60s is, JFK, Nixon, and the Doors. It's like, yeah, I believe all three of these things about the 60s. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's like it's my impression of it.
And somewhat Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah, Born on the 4th of July, too. That more falls into his war movie categories, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, if you want to see like 60s, like what's Americana, like that movie starts with that stuff.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you also get early Vietnam stuff in that because that's like around the start of the Vietnam War. But then it's not about that. It's about the guy dealing with coming home from war and having
Being
possibly
crippled.
killed somebody.
Yeah.
Being crippled. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I have for this week.
All right.
This week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Colin.
Andrew?